Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Relics, and today we're going to go over, or continue I should say, our LA Kings season review for the 23-24 season. Let's go over what we just went over last video, which was the season review. Real quick, I discussed the records, the home and the away, goals for, goals against, the individual series between each team for the West and the East. And my thoughts overall of the season for both the players, the franchise, the playoffs, things like that. So if you guys haven't checked it out, please be sure to check that out. Today is the continuation of that season review with the more in-depth look of the players. So no easy way to say it, so let's just get right into it. Point leaders, again, it's another one of those things where the Kings are not the best point getters. I'll be honest, the Kings disappoint me on a consistent basis because of the fact that we don't have anyone that's just a straight up top tier superstar. We have a superstar defenseman, we have a superstar centerman in both Drew Doughty and Andrzej Kopitar. However, they aren't the best scorers. As far as overall performance, they are absolutely amazing, league known. Every team praises them, and going against the Kings, they're like the first guys you want to mention. So I'm not surprised there. But we don't have anyone on a consistent basis that's like top tier. You have to target them because they are our threat. Going into the season, the high expectation was Kopi's going to lead the team again in points, most likely, the way he was going. Kind of looked like that, but then he fell off towards the end. Adrian Kempe was going to be our leading goal scorer, and probably another 35-plus goal season. That didn't happen. And then, of course, Kevin Fiala being a top-tier player as well as Dubois coming in and filling another centerman role that we signed him to a huge contract that literally sucked. And I made a huge video on that for the past summer about how the Kings were doomed, and it proved to be true. So if you guys haven't checked that one out, please feel free to go back to that in the past last year and see what I had to say. Did I speak the truth or did I not speak the truth? I think I did a fairly good job about it. Not to mention I mentioned some, during the season reviews, I mentioned a lot about Dubois as well. Not to mention how bad the trade was, so you could check those out as well. Let's get into the details of the point leaders. Adrian Kempe leads the team, 75 points in 77 games played. He had 28 goals and a team-leading 47 assists with a plus-minus rating of 13. So overall, not bad. I mentioned in the last video that he had a lot of consistency issues as well as lack of defense. However, I did praise him, and I had to give credit where credit is due. His plus-minus 13 is a good rating. Considering he plays a lot of empty net situations as well, and the Kings suck at empty net situations, and they get scored on a lot, that's actually a really high rating. So I don't deny that Kempe did get the scoring going towards the second half of the season. He did a phenomenal job as far as improving his game from last year to this year. Obviously, last year he had 41 goals in 82 games, so it's not like, I'm happy because he did miss the net a lot. And his power play numbers dramatically dropped this year from last year. So there is a consistency issue in his game still, offensively. But defensively, he did what I asked him to do from the player review this past summer. And he did improve his defensive game just a bit. A little bit more back checking, but not as much as I hoped he would. I think Kevin Fiala definitely, improved his game in that regard and played much more defensive game than Kempe did. They're practically two of the same players. Both can skate fast, make moves, deke, shoot, play make if they need to. So I think they're pretty much the same player, but obviously Kempe needs to be more offensive. That's what the Kings wanted him to be ever since he came into the organization. Me personally, I never saw Kempe to be a top line forward. second line maximum, third line potential when he came in. But the Kings see something different, and I won't deny that he's playing phenomenal, but at the same time, I don't think the Kings should expect more than this. This is his ceiling. This is Kempe's ceiling, and he shouldn't be expected to do more than 70-something points a season. Next up is Kevin Fiala. He's taking second place in points with 73. Too short of Kempe in 82 games. So he did play the whole season. Let me actually take this moment to tell you who did play the whole season. Kevin Fiala, Trevor Moore, Drew Doughty, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Trevor Lewis, and Andreas Englund. Those are the only players to play all 82 games on this season. Kopitar, he missed one for 81 games. Roy missed one for 81. Lafreniere, 81. But overall, these are the consistent guys playing all the games. It's amazing. Fiala went in 82 games. He went 29 and 44, again, for 73 points. He had a +1 rating. Unfortunately, his rating falls because he played a lot with Dubois on that third line, where they suck. Unfortunately, there's zero chemistry there. It wasn't Fiala's fault. Dubois was the problem. Let's be honest here, okay? There's a reason why the Kings signed him to a huge contract, which was dumb in the first place, and then got rid of him this past offseason. So, obviously, it's not Fiala's fault that his rating is so low. Dubois just sucked at defense. But I will say that Fiala's defense to start the season was the same issues he had last season. Wasn't very good on the back check, and he took too many risks. But unlike Kempe, I think his game definitely improved this season from last season as far as defense. And regardless that he only had a +1 rating at the end, I thought his defense was actually a lot better. And again, you have to take into consideration that he is out there for empty net situations. Therefore, his plus-minus is going to fall even more when he is not getting scoring on a regular basis because of Dubois, and then he has to go out there for the empty net and get scored on. So I will give him credit for that as well. I do appreciate Fiala's tenacity to, stick up for himself, even if it gives him too many penalty minutes. But overall, I think he was one of those players that helped us, in the regular season at least, helped us get the scoring going. And I look forward to seeing what he has to do, or how he performs this next season as well. And then third in scoring was Anze Kopitar, 5 short of the lead, again, for another consistent basis. But again, Kopi's only getting older, so it's no surprise. 70 points in 81 games, going 26 goals and 44 assists with a +11 rating. Perfect stats for Kopi. Honestly, the 26 goals is a bonus, and I think that's also a testament to how versatile he is. And I think the Kings failed, huge fail, to see how good Kopi is on the power play. I will get into the details of that later as far as the power play numbers, but Kopi definitely should have been more of the shooter, and I'll tell you why. But for now, compared to last season, in 82 games, again, Kopi's playing all the games every season. Kopi got 2 less goals than last season and 2 less assists for 4 less points. So again, remaining consistent regardless of his age. And I think this is perfect for Kopi. I expected, if you guys go back to my player review, this is exactly what I expected, actually. So perfect. I can't say more than enough for Kopi, and I hope to see a couple more years of this consistent production. As far as my player review, I'll go over it again, but probably in the 60s the next 2 years. As far as points are concerned, he is only getting older. We can't keep relying on Kopi. We need the younger guys to step up, right? So hopefully players like Byfield step up because, he actually had a breakout season. I'll get to him in a moment. 4th place with 57 points was Trevor Moore, playing all 82 games. He was our leading goal scorer for the year with 31 goals, the only 30 goal scorer, 26 assists, and a +11 rating. That is a huge difference 57 points, that is, from last year where he got only 29, 10 goals and 19 assists in 59 games. Trevor Moore is one of those players that he kind of suffered last year. Went on to the Christmas break, did something stupid probably, got injured, came back, never was the same player. And so this year, more consistent, throughout the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, second half, again, he fell off a little bit and kind of disappeared. And then he also disappeared in the playoffs. So, both good and bad. Great that he led the team in scoring, but bad because, that's not his job. And the fact that no one else also hit 30 goals is kind of disappointing. So, it just goes to show how the Kings are inconsistent as far as their top-end players scoring goals. We need contributions from everybody. But that was one of the things in my player reviews from last year is who can be 20-goal and 30-goal scorers. Kempe, Fiala should have been, 30-goal scorers. They weren't. Moore being a 30-goal scorer, that's amazing. But I do expect all of them to be at least 20 goals, including Kopi, Moore, Deneau, Byfield. Dubois was supposed to be, but he didn't. And then, like I said, we'll get into that soon as well. Byfield. Let's go over Byfield. 5th in scoring. By the way, I'm not going in order because of the points straight up. I'm going in order because of who the players are. Kempe led in assists and points, right? Fiala was right there with him. Obviously a great scorer. Kopi, our captain, got to go over him. It's another 70-point season, right? And then Moore, 30 goals in 30-goal season as our 4th point scorer. So I got to go over Byfield in order, right? Byfield, 55 points, breakout season, playing 80 games, got 20 goals for his first time, and 35 assists with a plus 19 rating. That is good for second on the team, compared to his last season where he got 3 goals, 19 assists, and 22 points in 53 games. This was Byfield's year. Without a doubt, my top player of the year was Byfield. From preseason all through the regular season, Byfield was the best player on the LA Kings. Without a doubt. There was never a time where I felt like he was a problem. He was the one who's giving up goals or was making mistakes as much as anyone else and wasn't playing on a consistent basis. I felt Byfield was consistent. He was the Matt Roy from the last season coming into this season. The most consistent player on the team. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for Roy, who I felt like was one of the worst defensemen, if not the worst players on the team this year. I will get into that because that is a huge controversy amongst me and my peers. But yeah, Byfield, absolutely amazing. And he just signed his big contract, $6.25 million average for the next so many years. I look forward to seeing what he can do. If he can perform at this level every year, I'll be happy with the contract. If he can improve, because he is still young, then I will be even more ecstatic to see him play because of the contract size. So, if this is the Byfield that we've been waiting to see, then I will be here for it all the way. Because this is the only year that he showed up. All of his experience before, one of the worst players on the team, without a doubt. But if he can play like this, I will be here for it and cheer him on 100% of the way. 6th in scoring, not going out of order because of any particular reason, Drew Doughty. 50 points on the season in 82 games. 15 goals, 35 assists, plus 15 rating. That is good for 13th on the... 3rd on the team in plus-minus rating. And he is our number 1 defenseman, as he has been since he came into the league. 9 goals, 43 assists last year for 52 points. So his consistency is there. He got more goals this year than he did last year. But he still got a 50-point season for the second straight season in a row. Overall, can't say enough about Doughty. Without a doubt, no one can deny he is the number 1 defenseman on the Kings. As well as one of the... In my opinion, I have to just say, he is one of the top defensemen in the league still. Top 15 minimum. In my book, he's top 10. But that's another argument. Either way, Drew Doughty is one of the heart and souls of the LA Kings. And no one can say that he is not trying every single game. Yes, he can make mistakes. I don't deny that. But he is still one of the best defensemen in the league, night in, night out. And as I will discuss later, the time on ice goes to show that regardless that he's getting older as well, he's still playing big minutes and is one of the reasons why the Kings are always competing every single year. So congratulations to Doughty for another 50-point season, as well as being one of the Kings' best. Then I have to go all the way down to the 13th point getter in Mikey Anderson, actually. 74. He got 18 points this year in 74 games, 2 goals, 16 assists. But the reason I'm going down to him specifically is because of his plus-minus rating. Led the team with plus 22 as Drew Doughty's partner. A little bit less points than last year, but that's okay. He's not here to score. Not to mention he was injured as well. Mikey Anderson, I got to give him a little bit of credit. He has shown to be a reliable defensive defenseman and pairing for Doughty. I didn't see it the first couple years, but now I am starting to see that he is actually very reliable. And, if this is the way Mikey will be playing from the future on, I'm going to cheer for him. And I want to see it happen every year. So, congratulations to Mike Anderson. You made a very good impression on me this year. Without a doubt, one of our top-end defensemen for sure. The decor is definitely a question mark for the past season and then going to this next season. Huge questions. But at least I know that Mikey Anderson and Drew Doughty as a pairing will have the same results year in and year out. And I am happy about that. So congratulations to them. So I also want to go over... I know these are like some of the point leaders and point getters and stuff, but I want to go over a couple other guys specifically. I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room any longer. Let's go over Pierre-Luc Dubois. He was 8th in scoring on the team. So, 8th is not bad, right? 8th on the team out of 20-something guys. That's not bad, right? No, it's actually really bad. In 82 games, he only got 40 points. That's not even, a point per game. That's not even half a point per game. It's terrible. In 82 games, he got 16 goals, 24 assists. He didn't get 20 goals, which is a huge disappointment because that's what we assigned him to do. At least minimum 20. He also had a team-leading -9 on the season. Sorry, not team leading, but one of the highest plus-minuses minuses on the team. -14 for actually Laferriere, his partner on that third line. So second in minuses, but either way, as a top-end style player, he should have been a plus, not to mention should have got more scoring. With Winnipeg last year in 73 games, he had 27 goals and 36 assists for 63 points. So that is a huge drop-off for a guy we signed to a big contract. And I'm happy he's gone. I don't know what the Capitals see in him that they wanted to get him for the offseason. I guess they really wanted to get rid of Darcy Kemper. But, yeah, Dubois, absolutely atrocious. Can't say enough about his inconsistent play. He can't play make. He can't skate. Probably one of the laziest players I have ever seen in my life. And I've been watching hockey for 12 years now. Lazy as hell. I mean, if you guys watch him skate, where if it was a line change or just going up and down the ice, he is never sprinting. He is one of the laziest players I've ever seen on the ice. And it showed. It showed. And I can't believe that the Kings thought he was going to be a good player for us. I said it when the trade was made. During the offseason last season, the Kings are doomed, and this is the reason why. And it definitely showed. This was, without a doubt, one of his worst seasons of his career, and I don't know what else to say. I don't see what everyone saw in him. I had multiple people tell me throughout the year, he's going to come around, he just has to find the chemistry, you're being over-exaggerate, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No. I told you guys from the get-go, he was bad, he was going to be trash, and I was 100% right. And to all of those who doubted my opinions on Dubois, I have to say, screw you. I was correct. So there's my say on that. I'm going to move on now. Next up, someone I want to talk about who is a huge controversy on the team, for me at least, was Matt Roy. To some, one of the best defensemen on the team. To some, like myself, the worst defenseman on the team. Or at least one of the worst, I should say. So in 81 games, Matt Roy got 25 points for 5 goals, 20 assists. Second in plus minus with a plus 21. Point wise, he got one less point than last year, where he got 9 and 17 for 26 points in 82 games. So I'm not concerned about the points. Matt Roy is not someone who's going to get, points on a consistent basis. I don't deny that. However, contributions on the back end would be great if he was contributing with points, considering he is playing the second pair with Vladislav Gavrikov. And he's another question as well that I need to talk about. So, sticking to Matt Roy, last year for the 22-23 season, I literally said, outside of Drew Doughty and Sean Durzi, who I thought were our number 1 and number 2 defensemen respectively, Matt Roy was number 3. And if not the most consistent LA King on the season last year. 100% the top, number 1, most consistent King. And yet, this year, he was one of my worst, if not the worst player on the team. Yes, he has a plus 21. Yes, he got around the same amount of points as he did last year. However, there's a huge difference between how he plays and what his role is. On the back end, in the defensive zone, his defensive coverage is absolute shit. Let's be honest. His plus minus, it doesn't come from him being able to score. He just happens to be the guy who happens to be on the ice. If you take a look at the plus minuses for both Doughty and Roy, there's a reason why Doughty's plus minus is lower compared to, for example, his partner, Mike Anderson. It's only a 7 rating difference, but there is a difference, and that's because whenever, at least I've noticed quite a bit, whenever the scoring happens, Roy just happens to be on the ice, and it's not necessarily his partner, Gavrikov, who's on the ice with him. Therefore, there's a huge thing about me noticing this, that Roy just happened to be the guy who got lucky and got the lucky change in and got the rating on the goal scoring. Whereas Doughty plays empty net situations, Roy does not, and Roy doesn't get scored on as much because he doesn't have to deal with it as much. When he was on the ice, there's a lot of goals against where him and Gavrikov are the guys on the ice, but immediately we go and get the goals back. So, huge inconsistency in his defensive game. And again, like I said, I will talk about Gavrikov as well. But Matt Roy, everyone praises for his defensive abilities and hit leading, on the team, but that's an understatement. That's something that's just misleading, to be honest. He loves to do this cross-checking push that pushes opponents against the boards and makes them lose balance, but they don't lose the puck, and then they get away from him. And I think that's something that specifically like Jim Fox loves to mention. However, if you guys always rolled the clips of those moments, never does Matt Roy ever steal the puck away. And that's the problem. There's no point in saying, oh yeah, you're keeping them to the outside of the zone if they still get the scoring chance eventually. Because you're not doing your job if you're not preventing them from scoring. If you're just putting them to the outside until they get the scoring chance, then you're not doing your job right. And I think that's one of the issues that Matt Roy had, that I had a huge complaint about this season. Now, again, this is a huge controversy because I got a lot of comments saying that I'm over-exaggerating and he wasn't the issue, blah, 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 blah. No, he is. I mean, you literally kept this guy who doesn't score more goals and stuff over Durzi, who was cheaper and played better. Durzi played both power play, he played PK, he played empty net situations, and even strength minutes. A lot more than Roy did. And everyone thinks Durzi was worse because he made a lot of mistakes. He's playing right-handed on the left D spot with Roy. Come on. You guys have to understand that there's a huge difference between playing right-handed and left-handed on your respective sides. Roy is playing the right D, consistently every year. He needed to play better, and I didn't see it. And then, of course, now this year he had Gavrikov as his partner, and that just didn't pan out as well. Gavrikov, too, he suffered a lot. He only got 23 points in 77 games, 6 goals, 17 assists with a +9 rating. It was a boost from last year, yes, but at the same time, that is he's signed to a huge contract, over $6 million a year, and he only got 23 points. That's terrible. Dursey, who was signed for 1.7, right, the years prior, we got rid of him to keep this guy here. That makes no sense. Dursey was playing way better than Gavrikov, 3 times as better as Gavrikov. The only thing Gavrikov is good for is he's a big body to stay in front of the net, and B, he was probably the best as far as defensemen is concerned for keeping them out of the zone, stopping them at the blue line. But that's it. If they got through Gavrikov or the other side, Gavrikov was completely useless in the defensive zone. One of the weakest and slowest defensemen on our team, for sure. That pairing of Gavrikov and Roy was just a huge disappointment to me. If you're the second pairing, you got to be both consistently good and not be bad at the same time. Like, you have to be able to score and you have to be able to play defense. But I don't think both players did that as the second pairing. For example, Andreas Englund and Jordan Spence as the third D pairing, I thought their chemistry and their consistency from game to game was much better than Gavrikov and Roy. Were they the best pair? No, without a doubt, Spence and Englund weren't the best pair. However, they were both, in and out of the lineup, or not England, but Spence was in and out of the lineup, switching spots, playing empty net situations as well as power play. There's a huge difference between the roles that Spence is playing and Roy is playing, and Roy does not play special teams. So, huge difference, and I think Roy just sucked this year overall. Gavrikov too. And that's where I was worried about the defensive pairings coming into this past season, as well as now going into this next season. Roy's gone, and I think the Kings also saw what I saw and finally realized, hey, Roy is not the guy we need to keep. Great. Let Clark play. Not that Clark played any better. In fact, Clark was actually still bottom of the barrel as far as his play, overall play. But, he's younger, and hopefully he plays great as he gets older, but that is yet to be seen. Overall, the D-core going forward is not good. Honestly, this is the reason why I feel like we're going to not go on the next season, is because the Kings D-core is terrible. Again, I will get into projected lineups towards the end of this video, but for now, I just want to keep going over the players specifically. Next up, I want to talk about Victor Arvidsson. Again, he only played 18 games on the season because of his surgery, but he got 15 points, 6 goals, 9 assists, +4 rating. I'm not even going to talk about his last year's numbers because they were pretty good last year as well. But again, he has to be consistent, and I thought he was. I thought as a two-way forward, he's good scoring, good speed, right-hand shot, something that the Kings lacked all season. Lewis and Lefrere, they're the only right-handed players on the team besides Arvidsson, and of course Akil Thomas as well coming in. The Kings are blind. The LA Kings are absolutely blind. Even going into this offseason, who did we get from the offseason? Left-handed players, and I'm very upset because like I said, I'll go into the projected lineups later. Again, we're going to the season with very few right-handed players, if not just 2, I think. So, again, I think Arvidsson proved that he is a great right winger, and we needed to keep him, I think. But unfortunately, Kings don't want to deal with his surgery and injury issues. So, best of luck to him in Edmonton. I think he just makes the Oilers stronger. But overall, I enjoyed watching him play when he did. I definitely think he brought a lot of skill to the team. And as far as what he did last year to this year, he improved. I talked about how he always spun out and fell to the ice last year, giving up pucks in the offensive zone. Consistent this year. Way better, much better player than he was last year. Unfortunately, he just didn't have enough ice time to prove it. Unfortunately, going to the playoffs as well, we didn't get to see much from any of the Kings. So I can't really fault him either, just because he's just one guy on the team. But overall, the whole team suffered, and it would have been nice to see if someone like him could step up as well and show he can score more goals in the playoffs. But the team likes to stick to a structure, and as some of us say, there's no hot shots on the team. No one's going to go like out of their way to do something and be a hero. It's stay as a group, work as a team. No lone wolves here, which is unfortunate because that's what you need sometimes. You need some guys to just go on their own and do something to help the team win. And even if it makes the coaching staff mad at them, we need that. And that's kind of the one reason why I do like Kevin Fiala's game, because he can be one of those guys that just makes a play on his own and just does everything. And so if we can rely on some of that next year, maybe just a little bit more, it'd be great. But Arvidsson's gone, so that's not going to happen as far as having him. One other player I want to talk about before I get to even more details about the team is Akil Thomas. He played 7 games with the team to finish the season. He got 3 goals and 1 assist with an even rating, and that's 4 points in 7 games. That's 3 goals, and they were pretty good goals, no less. And the Kings decided to get rid of him before the playoffs. I don't know what the mindset about that is. You're one of your players who is scoring every single... Yeah, I think he scored in individual games too. And we won those games. And all of a sudden, you don't want him in the lineup going into the playoffs. The guy who is goal scoring in our final games, and you don't want him in the lineup. Absolutely sad. Not to mention his NHL debut, where he played like 3 minutes. Absolutely retarded. I don't know what the Kings organization is thinking. These guys, these young guys, need to play. And Akil Thomas is one of our futures right now. He is a right-handed shot who needs to play right now. If he is not on the opening roster, I am going to be so upset. He proved that he is better than half the team was going into that playoffs. And yet, he didn't make the roster for it. I'm very upset about that. And I hope the Kings see their mistake. And hopefully Thomas has a season this year, because he needs to play. When he was drafted, I was excited to see him play, and yet he's only played 7 NHL games. So that needs to change. So that's as far as like points, overall point getters are concerned. That's what I want to discuss as far as to open this video. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about the goals, the goal leaders, and the other stat leaders. So as I mentioned before, Trevor Moore led the season with 31 goals. That's great. That's amazing. Best on the team. Second, Fiala, 29 goals. That's good. I was hoping for 30, but that's still good for him, especially compared to the last season where he was, constantly being one of the issues on the team that led to our losses. Third, Kempe, 28. Compared to the seasons before, that's bad, but it's okay. Like I said, I wasn't expecting a 40-goal season, yet alone maybe even a 35 season. 30 goals though, that should have been his mark, but he didn't hit it. Kopi, 26 goals, that's great. Kopi shouldn't really be getting 25 plus goals, really. 20 goals to 23, 24, sure. Byfield, 20-goal season. Great. That's a huge improvement. I'm actually very happy about that. Who knows? Maybe next year he'll be a 30 for some reason. As I mentioned in the player reviews from last year, some of the best passing I've ever seen in my life, well, that stayed consistent this year, as well as the improvement on the goal scoring. So, fantastic. Deneau, 17 goals, should be a 20-goal scorer if he sticks to what he is good at, which is staying in the front of the net, which he did not do this year. But 17 goals is still okay for him, just because he is not the offensive type of centerman. He's more defensive. So Overall, production should be a little bit better, but it's okay. It's tolerable. 8th in goal scoring, Doughty, 15. Or sorry, I skipped Dubois, 16. Bad. Obviously, like I said, should have been a 20 to 30 goal scorer. Didn't happen. Doughty's 8th on the team, 15. That's great. 15 goals for a defenseman. That's absolutely amazing. One of the top defensemen of the year for goal scoring. That's incredible. 9th on the team, Lafreniere, 12. That's just okay. Again, if you're playing all season long, even though you're a rookie, you were chosen out of training camp to be that player who comes onto the team and plays. You should be scoring a little bit more. 15 goals minimum for me, for Lafreniere's production. But that didn't happen. Tied for 10th, Lewis and Grundstrom, both with 8. It's okay for Lewis because, A, he's an older player, playing on the 4th line every single night, night. So that's fine that he got 8. Grundstrom, bad. He played on 2nd and 3rd lines as well. Should have had at least, again, another one of those players that should at least have 15 goals a season, if not more. But I think we're tired of him. That's why we got rid of him. So there's your goal leader for the season. Let's move on to assists. Kempe led with assists, like I said. 47 assists. That's absolutely amazing. Fantastic for him. Fiala, 44, as well as Kopi. They tied for 2nd, 44 each. That's great. Byfield and Doughty tied for 4th each, 35 assists. That's great for both of them, in fact. Like I said, Doughty another 50-point season. It's fantastic. Deneau was 6th on the team with 30. That's good. I'll take that. 30 assists alone is 30 points on the season. Like I said, if he got 20 goals season, that's 50 points. That's all I really expect from Deneau. 7th on the team, Moore, 26. That's good enough, I think. That's the style that Moore should be. 2nd line, 3rd line-ish type points. That's good. Dubois, 24. Bad. Again, he should have had at least 30 minimum assists, if not more, because he is a two-way forward. Should have had more. 9th on the team, Spence, 22 assists. That's okay for him. Lacking in a lot of goal action. Spence does not trust his shot, and he should. That's why he's quarterbacking the second power play unit. But unfortunately, he didn't trust his shot. So lacking in the goal department, lacking in total points. 10th in assists was Roy with 20, which is okay for him as well, regardless of what I had to talk about him earlier. Plus minus leaders, as I discussed, Mike Anderson led with 22. That's amazing. Roy, 21. That's a hidden stat. It's a hiccup, to be honest. That's a lucky stat for him. Byfield, plus 19. Definitely deserved it. Played a very consistent offense and defensive game throughout the entire season. No doubt that he was one of our best, if not the most consistent player on the Kings this year. Doughty, plus 15. Again, like I said, plays empty net situations, so he got scoring a lot. He probably should have led the plus minus on the team in general. Kempe, plus 13. That's decent considering, again, empty net situations and the way he improved his defense overall through the season. 6th on the team, Deneau, plus 12. That's okay. 7th on the team, Lizotte, Kopitar, and Moore with plus 11 each. That's technically great for Lizotte because he played more majority of the season on the 4th line and did a huge ton of time on the PK, so that's great for him. Kopi, it's just okay. He obviously played a lot of empty net situations and got scored on, but I did expect him to play a little bit more defense. There were times where he messed up, straight blatant mess ups, mistakes that shouldn't have been made, especially for a player like him. But overall, still consistent. And then Moore, plus 11 as well, just okay. He is one of those players I feel like should definitely be able to play both offense and defense, consistently, especially since he does play PK. Could have been better, maybe like a plus 15-ish, but overall, 11's not bad. And then, of course, 10th on the team, plus 9 was Gavrikov. It's not good enough for me, especially as the second D pair. You should be higher. D-men should be higher in the plus minus than the forwards, and yet Gavrikov being in single digits, that's not good. And as I discussed throughout the season during my quarter season reviews, Gavrikov's plus minus was never really that high, therefore that's really bad. Penalty minute leaders, we got Andreas Englund leading the penalty minutes. No surprise there. He takes the most fights, so technically this is a misleading stat. The ones I really need to look at are the forwards specifically, because they do take penalties in the offensive zone, which leads to a lot of issues. I also want to mention, by the way, let me pull my notes here real quick. On March 20th, Minnesota versus LA in a 6-0 win, no less. Kopitar, Kempe, Byfield, Roy, and Gavrikov all got 10-minute misconducts to increase their penalty minute totals to a abysmal amount. The other players involved in that were from the Wild, Lucchini, Bogosian, Chris Holm, Shaw, and Beckman. So, those guys aren't exactly Minnesota's all-stars, right? They're just the guys who were on the ice mucking things up towards the end of the game, and the referee said, throw them all out. So, excluding 10 minutes from Kempe, Byfield, Roy, Gavrikov, and Kopi, take away from those penalty minute leading numbers, then that's where your actual penalty minutes are. With that in mind, Kempe is currently second in penalty minutes with 72. However, minus 10, he drops down to fourth with Fiala, which is still a lot. 62 penalty minutes for him, and he doesn't fight. That's pretty bad for Kempe. So, way too many penalties. And like I said, that contributes to why we also didn't get to see him score over a 30-goal season. He's spending too much time in the box, so that needs to improve. That's a bad stat for him. Dubois, third on the team with 70 penalty minutes. He does not fight. I don't think Dubois got one fight this season, if I'm remembering correctly. Therefore, that is 35 minor penalties. Well, not 35 straight minor penalties, because I do believe he had a couple double minors too. But overall, 70 penalty minutes, and they're all penalty minute worthy minutes. You're in the box, not because of fights. That is stupid. Worst player on the team. He's just adding him to the case here. Fourth in the team was Fiala, 62. Again, just like last year, too many selfish penalties here and there. I don't agree with some of the penalties called this year, against him, so I will give him that. But, overall, he still needs to improve his game as far as being disciplined. Fifth on the team is Laferriere, just like Dubois. That's terrible. Again, that is a line. Fiala, Dubois, and Laferriere. They are the third line. And considering that all three are on this list in the top 5, that's horrible. That line was absolutely trash. So, Laferriere, that's not good enough. You got to do better, be more disciplined. But it's just okay considering he's a rookie, so rookie mistakes are going to happen. I will give him that little bit of leeway, but not the same for Dubois. Sixth on the team was Doughty. Again, your number one defenseman is going to take some penalties. There's no doubt about that. So I'm okay with how many he took. Byfield, 42. It's like I said, minus 10, so that's technically 32. He doesn't fight, so that's 16 minor penalties throughout the entire season. I don't think that's bad. I think that's all right. You're allowed so many penalties, and I think that's okay. Roy, again, he's another one, minus 10, so that's 32 total, not really 42. It's okay, but again, so for the guy who's being praised as defensive, oh, by the way, same thing with Gavrikov, who is next up with more with 28. You guys got to stop taking penalties. You guys have to be the guys who have to stay on the ice, specifically defensemen, because the D pairs are only 6 guys, and there's 3 PK lines. You guys got to stay on the ice, not take penalties, and not tax the other defensemen. So Roy having that many is not okay, but as far as a season total, it's fine, it's tolerable. So overall, penalties not really a huge issue. Not to mention the Kings were one of the best PK teams in the league, so I have no complaints about that, especially because they had Lizotte and Lewis as a duo. PK duos being Kopi and Kempe, Deneau and Moore, Lewis and Lizotte. Without a doubt, in my mind, Lizotte and Lewis were the best PK duo on the LA Kings. If you guys have anything to say about that, just go watch all the games. Majority of the games, if the PK got scored on, it was never Lizotte and Lewis. Once or twice on the whole year? That's it. It was always the other duos who were getting scored on. It wasn't Lizzie and Lewis. So, prove me wrong. Go prove me wrong. I watch every game. They were the best PK duo, and unfortunately now that is broken up because Zot is gone, and Rob Blake is an idiot for getting rid of him. There's my say on that. Next up, power plays. Real quick, power play goals. Leader was Fiala with 11, Kobe with 9, Doughty, Dubois with 7 each, and Byfield with 6. Those are your power play goals leaders. Where's Kempe? Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. Where's Moore? Nowhere to be seen. The second unit has a player up there, and that's Dubois. Like, that's just sad that Dubois is the second unit's best power play goal scorer. And that also just sad for Dubois himself because that's the only way he could score. Like, that's incredibly horrible to think about. But overall, inconsistent on the power play for the Kings. They are all left-handed. The only right-handed players on the PK, both units 1 and 2, were Doughty and Spence. That's it. Those are the only right-handed players until Arvidsson came back. So the Kings were read like a book. And again, like I keep saying, I keep complaining about it. They need a right-handed player, and yet this offseason, all they got was left-handed players. Power play is going to suffer again. I will not be surprised if we're like middle of the league, if not worse, in the league this next year, because the power play is just going to be the same. Watch out for that left-handed shot on the right wing side. It's going to be Kempe or Fiala. Inconsistent scoring from Kempe. Missed the net, / it's too easy to read. They need other players. Not to mention, Kobe has 9. And I mentioned it before. This is why I feel like Kobe was an underestimated power play player. The Kings need to use Kopi's shot. He has such a good shot, and there's a reason why he got more than 20 goals this year / last year. His power play capabilities are just phenomenal, and the Kings do not utilize his power play potential to the maximum. Same thing with Doughty. He only had 7 goals. He led the league. He led the league in point shots from the center of the ice, in the high slot, in the point area. He led the league in goal scoring from that spot, and yet the Kings don't use him to shoot more often. The Kings should have used Doughty a lot more on the power play. Unfortunately, they did not. They're going to trust Kempe, the guy who missed the net a lot, to shoot and score. Yeah, right. So they need to fix that. Shorthand. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm going to continue with the power play first. Power play points overall, though. That was just the power play goals. Let's talk about power play points. On the season, Fiala led the team with 30. Kempe 27. Kopi 23. Doughty 20, and Byfield 14. There's your double-digit scores right there. And then that's where it drops off. The second unit players just weren't there. Deneau 9, Dubois 8, Moore 7, Spence 6, and Arvidsson 5. And that's 5 power play points for Arvidsson. 1 in 4 in 18 games. So technically, if Arvidsson was on the season, he'd probably be up there with the leaders because he would play the first unit. Unfortunately, he wasn't available, so... power play points, I'm happy about Fiala. His numbers overall. I mean, 11 goals and 19 assists. That's consistency right there. He can both score as well as assist on the scoring. That's great. Doughty, same thing. 20 points with 7 goals. That's amazing. Kopi, same thing. So, you got to rely on the guys who are getting it done. Kopi, Doughty, and Fiala. Don't let Kempe shoot. Don't let Byfield shoot. Don't let Dubois shoot. The Kings need to trust the guys who actually got the power play scoring done, and unfortunately they didn't do that. They just love to rely on Kempe to do everything, and that's a huge mistake. And I think they're putting way too much pressure on Kempe, and I think that's why his game's falling in general compared to the last couple seasons. So I'm not blaming Kempe 100% of the way. I'm blaming the Kings. They need to realize that Kempe can't do everything on the power play. They need to rely on everybody. But overall, power play, not the best this season. Could have been better. But again, like I said, it's where the PK is at, right? The PK numbers were the more phenomenal part of the game for the Kings. At the time of me checking stats, they were like literally the best team in the league, and then they fell a little bit short, but still top 5 in the league all year. So I'll give them that. Short-handed goals for the season: Kempe 3, Moore and Lizotte with 2 each, Kopi, Lewis, Anderson, Dolan, and Grundstrom with 1 each. So we are able to score short-handed goals. Short-handed points total: Kempe led with 4, Kopi and Lizotte with 3 each, Deneau, Lewis, Roy, and Moore with 2 each, Gavrikov, Anderson, Grundstrom, and Jared Anderson Dolan with 1 each. So overall, the PK was phenomenal. Like I said, let me look at Lizotte: 2 goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 1 assist for 3 shorthanded points. That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic, considering that. Am I like the only one who thinks he played best PK? Let me know in the comment section. Kopi, Kempe being the top duo for the PK. Even though they get scored on, yes, but consistently doing some good offense still while short-handed, and I'm happy about that. But overall, that's the PK. Can't really say too much more about it. It was phenomenal. Again, we have the team to do defense. It's just a matter of whether or not they can do it with even strength. Speaking of whether or not they can do it, let's talk about the face-offs, because face-offs are a huge reason why the Kings are, as defensive as they are. Unfortunately, this year, I can't say the same for the defensive aspect of the face-offs. Kopi leads the team, 55%. Absolutely amazing. Took the most face-offs with 1560. By the way, these players I'm going to talk about for the face-offs, they had at least 100 plus face-offs taken on the season. Kopi taking 1560 face-offs on the season. That's a lot. Deneau, 1157 face-offs taken, just under 52%. That's still pretty good. I'll give him that. 52% is not bad. Could have been better. Could have been more consistent, that's for sure. There was a lot of times where I felt like Deneau's just losing straight up all the time, and I was like, if he's losing, then let someone else take the Trevor Moore can take face-offs. Let Trevor Moore take the face-offs, if anything, because Deneau's just not having it today. Let them switch. But then at the same time, if we look down in this face-off department, I'll get to it later, Moore didn't do good either, so maybe that wasn't the best idea. Third in face-off percentage was Dubois, taking 885 face-offs. He had a 49.7% on the face-off dot. Much better than when he started. His face-off percentage throughout half the season, I think, was like in the 30s, if I remember correctly. It was really bad overall. And then Lizotte fourth, 46.8. Unfortunately, there's again, just like how I said about Roy and how his plus-minus was so high compared to his partner as well as Doughty's. Well, Lizotte's face-off percentage is so low because Todd McClellan, under his belt, Lizotte played against the top lines on a consistent basis. For example, he took face-offs against Connor McDavid. I noticed that a lot. He was constantly on the ice against Connor McDavid. It wasn't Kopi and Deneau. They were mostly going against Draisaitl. Lizotte played a lot of minutes and a lot of face-offs against the top-end players in the league as far as face-offs are concerned. So Lizotte's stats are a little bit misleading. He took 365 face-offs and only 46%. It should have been more like a 49, to be honest. I think it's an understatement how good he was doing as far as where he was playing. Obviously, fourth line, maybe the occasional top, change to the third, but he was always playing against the top end players, so you got to give him more credit than his face-off percentage says. And then, of course, last but not least is Lewis with 313 face-offs taken, 42% on the season. He is a winger, more at heart, so I won't be too hard on him about his face-off percentage. But overall, the centerman needs to do a little bit better job compared to last season, where we had multiple guys getting 50%. So that's a huge mistake as far as defense is concerned. As far as other centermen, Byfield, Moore, and Fiala. Fiala's not a centerman, but he should take quite a bit of face-offs, actually. Whenever Dubois got kicked out, they're not going to have Laferriere take the face-off, so Fiala came in and took the face-off for him. Byfield took 90 face-offs, 45.6%. It's pretty good, considering that he played mostly wing throughout the entire season. Moore took 48 faceoffs, only 29%. So I mentioned how Danault, sometimes needed a break. Well, maybe not for Trevor Moore, because that's also a huge mistake apparently. Even though I know that Moore can take faceoffs, I've seen him take faceoffs before. So kind of a huge miss right there. And then Fiala took 38 faceoffs, only winning 26% of the time. But again, he's going in when Dubois gets kicked out, so he can't make the mistake of losing a faceoff or cheating the faceoff because they'll get a penalty for it. So the best part is probably just to try and win it just by swinging your stick at it, and most of the time the second violation would be a loss. So I'm not going to fault him for that. But yeah, that's the faceoff stats. Kind of disappointed this year. Hopefully next year will be better. Again, centerman is going to be Kopi, Danault, as usual for the first and second line. Byfield, I think, is expected to play third line centerman. Hopefully he can improve his game again, because I want to see him do really well. And then, of course, fourth line center. I am praying for Akil Thomas to be the centerman, because we need a right-handed centerman, and he would be it, if not Trevor Lewis. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said before, I'll mention the projected lineups and just later, in just a moment actually. But let's go over the time on ice real quick. Drew Doughty led with 25:47 time on ice. Per the norm, he's always leading the team, and that's always like league highs as well. So congratulations to him, always being consistent. Roy was second with 20:53. Show did a little bit better for how much ice time he was getting. Mikey Anderson missed some games, but he still got 20 minutes and 37 seconds. Again, doesn't play power play and doesn't play empty net situations, so of course his time is going to be a little bit less, but he still played great defense. Gavrikov being the second D pair as well, 20-37, tied with Anderson, in fact, which is quite remarkable. Should have been better with the time on ice he's getting. Then we go into forwards. Kopi 1939, Kempe 1856, Fiala 1802. Goes to show, look, see, Fiala may be playing third line role, but he is still getting the time on ice because he is playing empty net situations, and therefore he is still getting quality ice time that will allow him to score and be effective for the team. Danault 18 minutes, not bad. More just under 18 minutes. Arvidsson 10th place with 16:41. So even though Arvidsson came back, he still played that second line role, and so got the ice time, and I thought he did a really good job with it. So overall, the ice time leaders is not really a big surprise here, to be honest. You got your top 4 defensemen as well as your top 6 forwards. So I think this is really well done by the players. The consistent ice times, no complaints here whatsoever. Lastly, as far as the stats are concerned, let's talk about the goaltending. Goaltending stats, we had 3 goalies this year: Talbot, Riddick, and Copley. Talbot playing majority. Obviously, for some reason they thought him the starter for the season, which he got the job. 54 games played, record of 27, 20, and 6. If you take that into account, that's actually 53 game record right there. The games played do not record whether or not you switched in and got wins or losses, so it's going to be off in that regard. But he did win more wins than losses. 27 wins, 26 total losses. Goals against average of 2.5, save percentage of 91.3 save percentage, so not bad. Overall, decent stats, considering that all 3 goalies were on 1 year, 1 mil contracts and weren't expected to be, all-star goalies, and yet Talbot was our all-star for the year, which is weird. Second, David Riddick was 24 games played, 13 wins, 6 losses, 3 in overtime, 2.16 goals against average, and a 92.1 save percentage. That is phenomenal for him. I'm actually very happy. I felt like he should have been our starting goalie this year, if not Copley. I felt like, obviously, if you guys saw my reviews from last year, Copley was betrayed by the Kings, and he was the reason we got into the playoffs, and yet they didn't play him once. So, huge betrayal. But unfortunately, Copley had surgery this year, so he didn't play as well. But congratulations to David Riddick. He impressed me immensely, and I think he should have played more games down the stretch. Unfortunately, Kings trusted Talbot more. I think that was a huge mistake. So, not saying Talbot sucks. He did his job. It's not the goaltending that was the issue, really. It's It's the forwards and defensemen, but I think Riddick was definitely a better player, and that's probably why David Riddick was kept over Talbot this offseason. Maybe. Obviously, we don't know all details. But lastly is Phoenix Copley. Played 8 games, 4-1-2, 316 goals against average, and 3.16 goals against average, and a 87 straight save percentage. Won more games than he lost, even though the stats are kind of skewed in out of his favor. Again, this was a time where the skaters were not playing the best hockey, and I don't blame Copley for his losses. So, yeah, goaltending, not an issue. And I'm happy because Phoenix Copley was actually re-signed to another year, albeit he's probably going to play in Ontario to start the season, most likely. And I will get to that in just a moment. But overall, I am happy with Copley's game, as well as I'm happy that he's back. He's given another chance. I really thought going into this offseason he was going to be gone because the Kings don't want to have to deal with his... Well, A, he comes back from surgery, and then B, he wasn't like the top tier goalie of the league. So I didn't think the Kings were going to want him back. But luckily, he's back, and I'm happy for that. To wrap up more of this video, this next part is I'm going to talk about the signings and the trades that happened during the offseason. Let's start off with the trades. We got Tanner Jeannot, left wing from the Tampa Bay Lightning, for his final year, which is at $2.66 million. We traded a second-round draft pick in the 2025 draft and the 118th overall in this year's draft. In 55 games played with the Lightning, he got 7 goals and 7 assists for 14 points with a -10 in 12 minutes and 1 second time on ice. That's actually really bad. For a guy who was expected to be a top-end player, when the Lightning got him, they traded a lot for him. Obviously, this is a bargain for us, but at the same time, it's bad. If he doesn't play to the potential that he is signed to be, then of course it's going to be absolutely atrocious for the Kings to have him as well. But, and this is a huge one. I had to think about this one a lot. If Tanner Jeannot can play to the potential of his third line contract, then and if he can play to a higher level, like a second line, or even play on the top line, then that will be a huge game changer for the Kings. That'll be a huge steal, because if Tanner Jeannot, who is supposed to be a decently good player, can play on a high-end level, that means that solves one of our lineup issues. Because as of right now, the lineup issues are that we only have duos on each line. For me, at least, when I make my projected lineups, I have Kopi and Kempe as a duo, Moore and Deneau as a duo, Fiala and Byfield as a duo, and then of course it was Lizotte on the bottom line, but now it's just Lewis. So if Jeannot can play on a higher line, I think that will fix a lot of lineup issues and be able to provide more options going down the season. The other trade was Kyle Burrows, a defenseman. He was traded from the Sharks for Carl Grenstrom, 1-for-1 trade. In 73 games played with the Sharks, he only got 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points. -42. As we know, the Sharks were one of the worst teams in the league, so there's no surprises. Minus is going to be bad, but that is really bad. -42 is pretty low, considering that he plays 19.08 average time on ice during the season. That means he's playing big minutes. That's like almost second. That's like first line, second line pairing minutes in between. So for 1.1 mil for 2 years, I'm not happy about it because we don't need him. But you know what? The Kings think that we need big bodies, and I think this is one of those trades that there was a mindset that him and the guy we signed, Joel Edmondson, 2 big bodies as a third line pairing, will just dominate defensively. And I am going to pray that it works out just as that. 2 big bodies who are both, by the way, 6'5", play defense on the third line pairing. I am just praying that it works out because both players suck. Both players have no offensive capabilities whatsoever. So I'm praying that it works out in that regard. But again, I'll get into that when I show my projected lineups. As far as signings, Warren Fogle from the Oilers came over, and we decided to sign Warren Fogle instead of signing Blake Lizotte. Huge mistake. We signed Warren Fogle to a 3-year, $3.5 million average contract. He is left-handed. Again, it's not a good thing. We got another left-handed player. He's a +3. Had his best season with the Oilers, 41 points, 28 and 21 goals and assists in 82 games. That's not fantastic, but I do not mind Warren Fogle. He is a great player in his own right. I have no issues whatsoever with him. I just wish the Kings got a right-handed player instead. And or kept Blake Lizotte, because Blake Lizotte plays a better game as far as overall performance. Warren Fogle, he's only good for, more offense than defense, but he can still play all roles, which is fine. Next up, Joel Edmondson, as I said, playing the third pair left D, because we already have Mike Anderson play Doughty on the top. Gavrikow's obviously going to play the second line, so Edmondson has to be the third. And we're paying him 4 years, $3.8 million average a year. That's terrible. $3.8 million average for a guy who only got 6 points last year in 53 games. Yet alone, he has never scored a ton of points. He has 0 offensive capabilities whatsoever. And we're paying him 3.8. That is disastrous. That is absolutely disastrous. He also had a -2 rating playing with the Capitals and the Maple Leafs. So that's another reason why that's bad, considering he also played 1639 minutes. So I don't understand the signing behind this. A huge mistake, considering we have Andreas Englund still for another year. Englund played fine. Englund played a fine game. I think this is a huge mistake. This is like the Dubois trade from last year. This signing here is going to be the downfall of why the Kings suck. But, and like I said with Burrows, if that is the mindset, and we're going with a strong, big third D pair presence, both being 6'5", Edmondson and Burrows, then alright. If it works, fantastic. I'll take whatever I said back. But I am expecting them to at least contribute offensively. At least a little bit. Because right now the Kings' D-core is atrocious for offense. There is no way we're going to win games if our D-core is not scoring alongside our forwards. So, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I will say I told you so. We also signed Trevor Lewis again for 1 more year at $800K. Again, we need the right-handed veteran. He got 8 goals and 8 assists for 16 points in 82 games with a +7 rating. And he played 11 minutes, 38 seconds, average time on ice. I thought Lewis was pretty good overall. Again, he's older, 4th line straight up, but his PK experience is just, it's an intangible that we can't lose. We lost Lizotte, so we can't lose Lewis too, and I think that's great that we kept him. Overall, I'm happy about him being back. Same thing with Copley. They were signed at the same time, so I'm happy about both being back. Speaking of Copley, 1 year, $825K. Again, his stats weren't the best, I know, but I don't blame the goaltending, and I think he's not one of the issues for the Kings. Like I said from the last year, he was the reason why we got into the playoffs, and the Kings betrayed him. So hopefully he can play some games this year as well and prove that he is a pretty decent goalie. We also signed in a group of 5 players, one guy who will play this year guaranteed. His contract was a 2-year, I believe. Yeah, it was a 2-year, and his first year is a one-way. So he cannot be sent down without passing waivers, so he will most likely be on the team. And that is Jeff Millot. He is a forward left wing, paid $775K average for 2 years. He has no experience whatsoever. 0. He is a 6'5", big body, no less, forward. But, again, he has 0 NHL experience. He's played 1 game, his NHL debut, I think it was in the 22 season with the Winnipeg Jets. So, this is a guy who shouldn't be here. His first year should have been like a two-way contract, because there's no way this guy's going to prove to be a reliable fourth liner. So I would not doubt if he's scratched on the opening night roster, but he is going to be a King when the season starts, because unless the Kings are willing to try and waive him, this is going to be a useless signing. So overall, he's a nobody, and not going to be surprised if we never see him. So that's my thoughts. So, but I will say this: Jeff Millot has 3 straight 20-goal seasons in the AHL. 3 straight 20-goal seasons. So if he can actually play to that level of experience and bring that to the NHL level, I don't even care if he only scores 10 goals as a fourth liner. That would be phenomenal. So if he can do that, then forget everything I said. Welcome to the team. But as of right now, the AHL is different from the NHL, and there's a huge difference in skill. So if he can't bring his game to the NHL level, then there's no point in having him around. And the last signing that I want to talk about is Caleb Jones. I hate the Jones brothers, both Seth and Caleb. They suck. They're overrated, and we don't need him. He was signed to a 1-year, 2-way, $775K contract. Again, left-handed D, so it's not like we needed him either. In 25 games last year, he got 5 points, so 5 assists, +4 rating. He's terrible. He should start the year in Ontario. If not, never come up to the Kings, because we don't need him. And I mean, he's a left D, right? So we have Mikey, we have Gavrikov, and we have Edmondson now, all being paid big bucks. So there's no reason for Caleb Jones to be even on this team. I don't know why the Kings made a huge big deal about getting him. Overrated. The Jones brothers are just super overrated, especially Seth Jones. Everyone thought he was like a top 5 defenseman in the league a few years ago. Absolute trash. Caleb Jones, no different. And I think there's a huge mistake to sign him. I would be happy if the Kings just got rid of him at some point. So that's just my thoughts, though. Going into the projected lineups now. This is how I'm just going to wrap up this video. For the next season, as of this recording, this is what I have down for rostered players, as well as what the contracts look like, and what we should, kind of make the lineups look like going into the season. I am thinking Warren Foegele will play the top left wing side of Kopi and Kempe. Why? He is a versatile player. As far as the left wing is concerned, I think we want to keep consistency amongst multiple lines. And as I will say later, in this breakdown, I think the lines will be more balanced with Foegele on top, playing with Kempe and Kopi. As far as that line is concerned, again, we're only having a lot of left-handed players. The only players I'm going to have on this lineup that are forwards that are right-handed are Alex Laferriere, Akil Thomas, and Trevor Lewis. And those guys are going to be your bottom players. Everyone else is left-handed. So just like last year, we're going to be a left-handed team, and we're going to probably be easy to read, and hopefully have to rely on a lot of passing and a lot of skill to get the goals. So overall, I think Foegele will play a decent role on the top line with Kopi and Kempe, being a good two-way forward. Second line, there's no surprise there. Trevor Moore and Philip Deneau, left wing and center. This is where it might get a little, crazy. I making a bold prediction that Liam Greentree, the LA Kings draft pick, first round draft pick from this year's draft, will make his NHL debut on opening night as the right wing, by the way, left-handed right wing, on the second line with Philip Deneau and Trevor Moore. Whether or not he plays there the entire time or he moves down in the lineup, that is what I'm thinking. After what I've seen and read, I think he has potential to be a top forward, as well as the Kings had just recently signed him to his entry-level contract, which to me was very surprising because I didn't think he was going to sign this year, yet alone for the price. He's being paid a $975K average entry-level contract, which is pretty high. $950K is the maximum entry level contract price. $975K comes from a bonus signing. So he had to sign now and get that bonus. So I think the expectation is that the Kings will play him this year, and I think he will start opening night. And with his skill set, I think he can fit on a line with Danault and Moore. He can be one of the scorers for that line. And that's what I'm hoping for. So that's why I have him as the right wing for that second line. So Foegele, Kopi, Kempe, Moore, Danault, and Greentree so far. Third line, Kevin Fiala, Quinton Byfield. That's going to be the duo with Alex Lafreniere playing the right wing. Lafreniere is going to be here to stay, so he's going to be there. He's going to be the third line. I hope that he understands what his role is on the team, and he plays a much better game this year than he did last year. Byfield being a centerman again, I think he played great when he was a centerman last year. There was only a few games that he did. But I'm hoping for a breakout season again. He had a breakout season last season, but now this is his first time in a huge contract. And I'm hoping that he is at least a 60-point scorer this year, playing with Kevin Fiala, who I am expecting to also be one of the top scorers on the team. So if this line can get it together, I think they could be a decent line. And Byfield has mentioned that he really wants to get the chemistry going with Fiala. So if that can work, that would be phenomenal. That'll be 3 straight forward lines that are not the best in the league or anything like that, but pretty balanced out. And if that's the case, I think the Kings look okay. And then the fourth line, I have Tanner Jeannot on the left wing, Akil Thomas centering as the right-handed center, and Trevor Lewis on right wing. So those are my forward projections. I want Akil Thomas to play on a higher line, but at the same time, knowing the Kings, probably not going to do that. But at the very least, he'll be on the roster on opening nights. At least that's my hope. Defensemen, or rather the D pairs and the goaltending, obviously I've already went over it already. Mikey Anderson with Drew Doughty. Gavrikov will play the second line left D, most likely with Brant Clark, who I think is already signed still. Jordan Spence to this day has not yet signed his contract from the Kings, that the offer they gave him, probably for the same reason that it's probably a league minimum contract, most likely. So I'm expecting Spence not to be signed anytime soon, and that leads Brant Clark to play the second line right D. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Edmondson and Burrows on the left and right D for the third line pair. Scratching England as the 7th D for the team for the opening night roster. Scratches for forwards also include Alex Turcotte, Samuel Fujimo, and Jeff Malott as well. So some of those guys, or rather all those guys, have two-way contracts, so they will go down. They will be sent down to Ontario most likely. As far as goaltending though, Darcy Kemper, who we got for the trade for Dubois, is going to be our starting goalie. There's just no doubt about that. There's the reason why Talbot did not sign again with the Kings. He signed with Red Wings. Kemper is going to be the starting goalie. Either Copley or Riddick will be the backup, but most likely Riddick is going to be the backup on opening night because Copley was signed for cheaper. I think Copley is going to start in Ontario. I don't know what the contract details are for Copley and Riddick, but I'm pretty sure Riddick's is a one-way and Copley's is a two-way. Therefore, Copley can go down to Ontario. Overall, not the best lineup. I put this together and I think to myself, this is not a strong enough lineup to get us into the playoffs, in my opinion. If we do, we're going to be a wild card and we're going to try and scratch our way in. Unfortunately, for example, if we win up against the Oilers again, we're not going to win. It's just the way it is. Yes, there's obviously controversy amongst the game itself. I've already made videos on the whole playoffs from this past year, and my thoughts about it. I didn't think it was the cleanest games, but the Oilers, with all due respect, they did win fair and square. Regardless of the refereeing and all that stuff, the Oilers deserve to win, and they did. And based on this lineup, we look worse than we did last year, and the Oilers look stronger this year. So That's just an example. And I think the Kings didn't do the right stuff this offseason. I'm very disappointed in how Rob Blake is handling the team. This year, I believe, is his last year of his term as GM. So if that is the case, I hope he leaves or gets fired. He needs to stop. Rob Blake is a mistake right now on this team, and he needs to be fired. He's like going down the route that Dean Lombardi went. He was great, got us the cups, and then lost his mind and just got rid of everything that was good. I think Rob Blake's doing the same thing. So that's just my thoughts and opinions, though. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Comment down below. Do you agree? Do you guys disagree with anything I had to say? Players, teams, etc. The signings, trades. Let me know anything. Let me know your opening night roster, for the Kings. Again, I went over multiple details here, but at the same time, it's just projected lineups. It's not official. Come training camp, we'll get a better idea of who's good, who's bad, who's going to make the team, and who's not. And like I said, these are just my predictions based off of what I've seen and heard, and the players, what I expect from them. Players like Turcotte and Fujimo, they've had chances to play in the NHL, and they just don't cut it. Especially like Turcotte. He's a pushover. He gets injured way too easily. He's not strong. And right now, we don't have room for him with the centermen we have. We have Kopi and Deneau as the top two. Turcotte's got to be a skilled player if he wants to play in this league. And unfortunately, playing on the third and fourth line is just not going to cut it. So that is not where he belongs, and therefore he does not belong in the NHL with the Kings. Maybe with another team he does, but not with the Kings. Same thing for some of the other players like Fujimo. He has a decent shot, but he doesn't use it at the NHL level, and that's why he's not an NHL player. That's why I'm hoping that players like Tanner Jeannot will improve and play to the potential that he should be playing at, and hopefully can play on a higher line. Heck, I wouldn't even mind if Foegele moves down, Jeannot moves to the top line, and Foegele ends up playing, heck, he could play second line with Moore and Deneau. I'm just saying that Greentree is going to play because of what I've seen and heard. If I had to be honest, I don't think Greentree is going to start the season with the Kings because of the fact that the Kings never start their high prospect players. I mean, look at Byfield. He didn't start the season with the Kings when he was drafted. So I am not expecting Greentree to be part of the opening roster, but based on his entry-level contract and the timing of the signing, I do think he will be there. At least during training camp, he will fight for that spot. So that's my opinion. That's my thoughts. Let me know if you guys agree. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with anything else I have to say. Again, as the month ends for July, hockey's going to start getting kicked back into gear. Training camp's around the corner. Can't wait to see what else these players have to show and see what else the Kings are going to do. Just because the off season, is coming to an end doesn't mean the Kings can't still do something like trades and maybe even sign somebody if we even have cap space left. Either way, I'm not as excited as I was last year to see the Kings. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not happy. I'm not happy about the Kings team right now. I'm disappointed and I'm not happy. I'm not excited. I want to watch hockey. I want to watch Kings hockey. But the way this Kings team is built right now, it doesn't look good. And I'm not excited for it. And I even said it. And I'm going to make it right now. This is the bold prediction for the season. It's just, we're not going to make the playoffs. We are just straight up not going to make the playoffs this year. I have little faith in the team that we have now to get the job done. And if you guys think otherwise, let me know. Let me know. Don't just dislike the video and think, oh, I'm crazy, I don't know what I'm talking about. I watch every game. I'm not a professional analyst or anything like that, but as a very unbiased fan of the game of hockey, I think what I say is pretty, based on facts and performances. I think what I have to say is pretty factual and true. I try to be as objective as possible, even though, like, for example, Matt Roy is one of the biggest controversies in my case right now. I it's not that I don't like Roy. I do like him as a person, for sure. And as a player, I think he's okay. But based on performance through the entire season, not just what is on paper, it wasn't there. And I think the Kings saw that too, and that's why he wasn't signed again. And then same thing for the Jersey situation. I love Jersey, and I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but there's a reason why he's the #1 defenseman in the Utah club right now and / last year in Arizona, because he was as skilled as he is presented to be. It's not just because I liked him as a player. He was better than majority of the Kings, 2 years ago. And I think it's a mistake that we got rid of him. So I know I keep using Jersey as my scapegoat as an example, but Kings fans in my life, you guys need to listen to what I have to say. And, I think I'm pretty accurate when I say that, the D-men are one of the reasons why we keep failing every year, is because they're inconsistent and certain guys aren't playing to the potential that they're signed to, such as Gavrikov. If you guys think I'm still wrong, then I think you're blind. There's just no way that, the Kings are going to be able to move forward with the defensemen we have now. And Doughty's the only one who's leading the charge. He's only getting older. He's eventually going to retire. Without Doughty, without Kopi, look at the team. Look at the team without those two on the team. Can you really honestly tell me that this is a competing team? Like, can you honestly tell me who would be the next captain / alternate captains without Kopi, Doughty, and Deneau? Let me know. Is there anyone on this team right now, as of this moment in time, who could be captain worthy, if not alternates? I don't think so. And I think that's one of the problems with the Kings team right now. There is no leadership. There is no real support system after these top guys are not getting it done. And that just leads to how I think, there's not enough secondary scoring. And I'm very disappointed how the Kings team is built right now. But I am holding out hope that the Kings prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, LA Kings. I want to be wrong. I want to see us win a Stanley Cup again, especially for Kopi and Doughty specifically. They deserve it again. And if you guys can prove me wrong, fantastic. But as of right now, I don't see it. And unfortunately, that's just the way I think it's going to go. But for now, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching / listening to my 2-part Kings review for this past season, as well as what to look forward to the next season. And again, stay tuned for any other content I put out for the LA Kings. As of right now, I don't have any other plans besides the player reviews. It'll be again, everything I discussed here practically will be in the player reviews. But if you guys want me to give you more detailed analysis of each of the players, stay tuned for those. It will be short, few-minute videos per player, just like last year's. So if you guys are excited for that, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for those. Until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Go King Go, and have a great day. Bye-bye.